welcome to Wednesday night at the Granada Hills Center for Spiritual Living. I am Maureen Hoyt, the former minister of this center, Minister Emerita, and Reverend Nancy Woods and I are here to have a discussion, whether we're by ourselves and with Vinu, who is our presider for today. I just want to welcome anyone who's online and those here at the center tonight. So our call to service is called Lighting the Flames of Faith, and we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here tonight. As Vino lights the first candle, it is for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light the 10th candle for those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives and for the place we hold for them. And as Vino lights the healing candle, please put silently in the light the names of anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love.
I'm thankful, so grateful. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful. I trust in God. I surrender, I surrender. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I surrender, I surrender. I trust in God.
And we just remain here for a few moments longer, anchoring ourselves into the oneness, the divine consciousness, the one mind, the one heart, knowing that each person here in person and online is in union with this all that is wisdom, clarity, heart-centered expansion. Knowing that we are each a unique and perfect expression of the divine, each one with that energy that is untouchable, undefinable, everywhere at all at once. Knowing tonight's discussion unfolds perfectly, that the message is here to uplift, to expand, to offer clarity and wisdom. I'm so thankful for this co-creation, for Reverend Dr. Maureen, for Reverend Nancy, for Renzen, for each person here in the present moment and later. It is with this full and grateful heart I release my word to the law, knowing it is all done, knowing it is all love, and we affirm by saying, and so it is. A couple of announcements. This Saturday, February 28th at 9 a.m. till 1 p.m., practitioner Myrna Morales will present a free intro segment into spiritual economics. From 1 to 3, she will present the same segment in Spanish. Come see what insights will be offered on spiritual abundance and so much more. Sign up in Sparks Hall or email admin@cslgh.org. This Tuesday, March 3rd at 6:55 p.m., SUM will hold their full moon event in the sanctuary here, celebrating the worm moon. Next Wednesday, March 4th at 7 p.m., the SOM open forum discussion takes place again. Come spend time with Dr. Maureen Hoyt and Reverend Nancy Woods as they lead another evening of readings, answers, and questions. Love donations accepted at the door. And now the Revs.
All right. Well, where two or more are gathered, there I am.
So,
There is the presence of God. So, Reverend Nancy, why did you choose this particular lesson or essay from Living the Signs of Mind?
because knowing that the power within us, the intelligence of the universe, is always available to us, and recognizing that and embracing that idea will allow us to listen to the thoughts that come into our own head whenever we ask ourselves that question. And I really agree with this. But I found that I second guessed myself, so this is reinforcing the idea that listen to what my mind tells me.
All right.
So, shall I start?
Yes, please, start.
Because God knows, I know. The mind which states a problem is the mind which knows the answer. That's it. Throw the problem into the mind for solution, and the answer will rise to consciousness. I'll read the next one. In actual practice, one does this by stating that he already knows the answer to his problem. The intelligence within him knows, and this intelligence within them which knows causes them to consciously know. It is not enough merely to state that the intelligent knows. We must combine our statement that there is an intelligence which knows with a conscious acceptance that the intelligence is now functioning in our consciousness, our conscious thought, causing us to know.
Yes. Be known.
It is scientific to say, I know. I know because I know that God knows. And because God knows, I know. Use any statement which will convince you that you really know. We are directed not by a blind force, but by an infinite intelligence which is not only willing, but whose very nature compels it to give us guidance.
All the prayers which we have uttered, no matter under what religious or spiritual banner they may have marched, have been effective not because of the peculiarity of their theology or religious belief, but because through this individual approach, we used a principle that exists in the center of every person's being. Naturally and humanly, they have told us that they received results because of their particular belief. But we know it was because they contacted an impersonal principle. We know there is such a principle involved, and we know how to make conscious use of that principle. So there you go. We know is through this whole thing, right? Instead of I think or I feel, it's like when we know, we know. Unequivocally. Welcome, Bonnie.
Apologies for my tardiness. What a day.
That's all right. You and a few others tonight, maybe, yes? So take a second to read over what is on this page. But the very first sentence caught me. The mind which states a problem is the mind which knows the answer. And I said this a couple of Sundays ago in my Sunday talk. I said, the God of our understanding would never create a problem in our life without a solution already in place. Yes?
Yes. And you know, the first thing that came into my mind is that when I'm looking for something, and when I ask myself, do I know? I immediately listen for the first thought that comes in my head, because usually that's where I have to go find what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is, I'm thinking, if I apply that to everything, maybe I would come up with better answers for myself.
Yeah. So somebody had a sign on a mirror in the bathroom in their house that said, thoughts aren't things. And yet, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It's just like a couple of weeks ago when Moises was here and he was talking about Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Wait, I am, therefore I think. You know, maybe Descartes didn't totally get it right when we said that, you know, maybe. I mean, Ernest Holmes would have said, you know, it's I think, I am, therefore I think. So, because God knows, I know. So when we go to the God essence within us in our meditation and then do our treatment work right after, the mind is clear and open and receptive to God's living spirit of truth. And this is the optimum time to do our prayer work because we're most receptive to seeing the results come to fruition.
I think that the answer that occurs to us, being framed in, I think I know, is probably putting it out from what the answer, instead of just saying what shows up in our consciousness.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes don't you think that when you say something, you needed to hear what you just said?
Yes.
Yes. Somebody asked me one Sunday about, you know, how do you form a talk? I said, because I need to hear what I'm saying. And I think I really,
Always.
it's not, at that point, it's not I think anymore, I feel. You know, when we did that thing that God doesn't hear the words, it hears the feeling behind the words. So the words are almost incidental, especially with Raymond Charles Barker, for instance, one of Reverend Nancy's teachers, and Ernest Holmes. Sometimes the person would come with a problem and they would sit there in the silence. They didn't say anything, but they knew at a heart level that what they were feeling on behalf of that client or that person was already done in the mind of God. You know, I don't always feel like that. I'm just going to say it out loud.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I recognize that it's the truth, and when I can remember to do that, to listen to myself, listen to my heart. What does my heart feel? And that's usually my key, is what my heart feels. And because I think that I feel like most of my feelings come out of my heart.
Yeah. So, what do you think? This gigantic audience we have. There's 80 angels in here, invisible angels.
Well, I'll share. Is this on?
Yes?
Okay, I'm going. I have had wonderful answers, solutions of a dilemma that I've had for a while, a couple of years, and I felt in my heart, actually, this is not good to be like this. There's something amiss. And I really have done this seek and you'll find. It's like, I need a solution for this. I really want a solution. And the difficulty was, I mean, this is nuts, I don't want to eat. I don't want to cook. I'm not hungry. And it's been going on for a long time. I've discussed this with people who know what's might be going on. I just eat meals. It's like between 1:30 and 2:30, I eat some sort of lunch, even though I don't want to. And what has happened with that is I don't want to cook. And our house has become so discombobulated, and the kitchen has just been hilarious. I mean, it's really pretty amusing in there. And my answers, solutions and help have come for this. I had, this week, the professional organizer. That knowledge that this person is there and I could afford it came and ripped apart the kitchen like we're moving. It's pretty scary. She said, "Where is your food?" And I said, "Well, there's a little in here and there's a little in there." And I realized in my entire kitchen, not the refrigerator, I had probably 15 cans and jars of stuff, and that's all. There was no food. And part of it is because the kitchen has become a quagmire. And the other part of this solution was we went away to a condo. There was another couple. I watched my friend, the other woman, cook. And she just brought out the carrots and so joyfully cut them up. We had planned the food together. I watched her cook, and she just cooked with such focus and love, like it was a craft. And it was just, that's how I used to cook. You know, it was such a wonderful thing. I watched her for 3 days, and I had this feeling of, thank you. This is what I needed to witness. Somebody who is preparing food without an attitude of being put upon. Now, I don't have to be the one who does this. I mean, bad attitude I had. So it really is for me, I've realized it today as we're doing the kitchen for the second day. A solution came, and I was so willing for it. I knew it was like, I'm ready to hear something about this. Show me something. And it did, and I feel really good about it. I feel like I'm going through a door. I'm going to go to the market and buy some food in a couple of days.
So was the kitchen cluttered? What was the reason for the organizer?
I had stopped attending the kitchen. A household, to me, my opinion is, it's like a farm. You manage it, you have animal husbandry, you pick up after things, you feed things, you bring in new things, you bring out old things. And I've had quite a few years where things just become crazy or I become disabled, and I wasn't doing those things. So very slowly what happened to the kitchen is wherever there was a vacuum, something was put there. You know, this space would empty and something would be put there until we say God, Spirit is order and wisdom. Order is that like things kind of glom together, just like...
Order is nature's first law.
Yeah, there was no order in the kitchen. I mean, discombobulate is the word for what happened. It was like something just came in there and stirred it up and it was a lack of consciousness and intention on my part. And I can legitimately say sometimes I was not able to do that. Mm-hmm. But then that stuck, and then resentment set in. Resentment came into the picture. Mm-hmm. It was pretty funny.
So funny in terms of
Ha.
odd,
Interesting, haha.
interesting, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh God, please let me get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what shifted in you? When you watched that woman systematically cut those carrots and prepare the meals, what happened for you? Was there some sort of sense of remembrance about the joy of cooking that you used to experience?
Yes, as I was one hell of a cook for a while. And I very joyously brought food into the house and fed our little tiny family of 3. I mean, we ate really well. I had meal plans. And when I watched my friend, I saw her doing the food prep with that intention. I did remember there was a recall and a calling back to, you can do that too now.
Yes.
You can just be home in that activity that you used to do. And the chaos of the kitchen was such a constant irritation and a feeling of, I am shirking my duties here.
So what do you think was the problem? Because Ernest says here,
Yeah.
in the second paragraph, he says, in actual practice, one does this, throw the problem into the mind for a solution, and the answer will rise to consciousness. But then he says, in actual practice, one does this by stating that she already knows the answer to her problem. You already knew the answer to your problem. You started out by creating spaciousness, by having someone come and organize for you. You know, a cluttered mind is no different than a cluttered kitchen. And we all experience that periodically. We let things get away from us. The joy of cooking comes about when you have all the things that you need at your hand in order to complete a recipe. But what is the recipe for life? It's having the information in our mind to see whatever it is that we desire come to fruition, right? The recipe for cooking is the same as how we live life. We have steps. We have degrees of things, just like a recipe would.
Mm-hmm. You know, my daughter's a chef. And when she cooks, there's a lot of prep goes on. She doesn't just throw a piece of meat and then start collecting the rest of the stuff. It's a setup.
That's an organization.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she probably has a very organized life as well.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking from this perspective, you have defined the whole essay tonight.
And so I was kind of smiling because I felt like that's what you did. The answer was already there. And when you asked the question, and I heard Reverend Michael Beckwith often says that if you ask the right question, the answer would definitely show up.
Yeah.
And you did it. But I had also smiled about it because I had somebody to come in and organize my kitchen. I have no excuses except I didn't want to do it, and it was, but it's real nice because
A place for everything and
Yeah,
everything in
yes.
its place.
And
yeah.
it was really nice having everything, and I know to go here. And right now, my niece is staying with me, and she has disarrayed it. And I was thinking when I looked at my kitchen today, I said, I think I need to have that lady come back after she goes home. Because it's so much better to have everything in order. So when you were saying that, I said, oh yeah, I can relate to that very strongly. Having someone else to put it in order.
And
Make it easier for me to function.
and we don't do things all alone.
Mm-mm.
There's other people for a reason. We're all working as a team,
So much easier.
cheering one another on,
Yes.
giving our expertise. Or here's how I did that, and it worked. It makes me think of what my gynecologist says. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Draw on them.
Yeah, it's very interesting when we attract people around us who are critical of us, for instance. It's time for me to step back and say, where in my life am I critical of me? You know,
Oh, yes.
what
Yeah.
I received an interesting
Great.
text message from somebody today, well-meaning, but it was an interesting take on her feeling comfortable enough to be able to send that text to me. And I thought to myself, what is it I need to know about this? You know, this is somebody who's trying to give me information that I'm not really quite ready to receive. And so now I have to do the work in order to be the receiver in a way that works because of her intention behind it and the direction I need to take it. Remember, we did that essay a few weeks ago about a direction and intention. So your thoughts, Vinu?
I had a couple different thoughts. One that just came to me was, I think sometimes this idea of like, I don't have the answer is really, it's not the answer I'm looking for. Like I have an idea of what it should be, right? Or what I want it to be, but that's not necessarily openness to the answer, if that makes sense. So sometimes there's a quandary and, you know, I'm in a space of wonderment of what the solution is, and then the solution is there. I feel it, I hear it, but sometimes there's resistance. Like, oh, yeah, I kind of knew that the whole time. I knew this is what I needed to do, but I was holding back, or it's uncomfortable, but I know it's for my best and for my growth. So oftentimes I think there's this like smaller version of me that's competing with that knowingness.
So resistance, it's a good word.
Yeah.
A fairly new word in the English language because it had to do with electricity. It had nothing to do with an intellectual or emotional response to something. It had to do, if you look up the derivation of the word, resistance had to do with electricity and got filtered into being used as something that we see ourselves. Maria Nemeth would say there is no real resistance ever. It's either you want to do it or you don't want to do it, period, the end. Resistance has no, because of the whole electrical thing, words are fascinating sometimes and how they become popular because of usage. And words that are in the dictionary today would not have been in the dictionary 20 years ago. When Ernest Holmes talks about being sympathetic to a client, it's really meaning empathetic. You know, empathy did not show up until a long time after Ernest Holmes wrote The Science of Mind. Empathy wasn't a word. It was coined after the Freud and the discoveries that he made about the psychology of human beings. So our saying that we're resistant to something or we have resistance to something is something we made up to qualify as an excuse for not doing it or not experiencing it.
And you know, that brings up for me the fact that recently I have been noticing and kind of claiming, okay, when something comes...
How do you kind of claim something? Oh,
I'm kind of claiming. Oh, well,
yes.
when things come to me, my evaluation is not even to do with the other person. It is what's going on in me that I'm hearing this, or this is coming towards me. And it's, so it really makes me notice my body language, my response, and my body language when the person talks to me also tells me where I am as far as my own personal feelings. And is this something that I'm really not ready to own up to in myself? Is there something that has been triggered? Or is this somewhere, is this something that I've been looking for? And this trigger, this thought is coming to me for that. So, and when you were talking about when you were wondering, where are you just, you know, not criticizing yourself.
Yeah,
And that's why I really have been noticing that language, and it really has put me in a whole different place. When observation of what I'm experiencing with people, and it has really helped me pull back a lot of the so-called judgment and evaluation of the other person. And it's almost like I'm looking at where am I listening to my spirit within, or am I not? Is my language totally caught up in the imprints of society rather than me and my spiritual understanding harmonizing with a certain topic? So it really to me, when I looked at this, it was that when God knows, I know. So I think I know things, and I think I know where I'm going. I think that I know what is happening, and then later on, I have second thoughts about it. Was this an act that was because I was supposed to, that thinking? I felt less than or more than, or is it a reaction because of the stuff that I had bought from society? Or is it me just totally not listening to my spiritual
so
energy?
is it you unconsciously inviting a certain something into your life experience?
I actually kind of beginning to feel like I'm inviting everything that comes in.
Well, yes, that's true, but we most of the time our unconscious invitation is about repeating a behavior pattern over and over again that no longer serves us, thinking we're going to get a different result. And
no.
there's a piece from the Essential Ernest Holmes, and I had never heard this term before until I taught the Essential Ernest Holmes a couple of years ago. Probably one of my favorite teaching models, because Reverend Jesse Jennings did some of the explanation of what Ernest Holmes was trying to talk about in there. And so on page 43, I copied the whole part I retyped it, and I have given it to all the practitioners, because what we would really desire for our lives is to consciously invite good into our lives.
Right.
But we unconsciously invite the uncomfortable comfort in our lives because that's what we're familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was like big for me, big for me. And I was working with a client at the time who has been married 3 times. And 2 were practicing alcoholics and 1 was a recovering alcoholic. And I said to her one day, I said, what about these three people was familiar to you? She said, well, both my mom and dad were practicing alcoholics. And she said, the behavior of the three husbands was familiar behavior to her. So recently she met and fell in love with someone who has no alcoholic background, no drug addicted background, and she is like having the time of her life because when she moved, she started studying the science of mind. She came to me at the recommendation of someone who goes to this church. She lived quite a distance away, and she is now going to go into practitioner training. This is like 3 years of study for her, and now she's ready to become a practitioner, something that she would not have entertained when we were working together. But we attract to us the things that are most familiar to us. And only we can remember, if we can bring up that subconscious retentive memory of what's familiar about this. Why am I attracted to this person? Why am I attracted to this job? Why am I attracted to this health issue? Is because, maybe the health issue was being told that, like this guy I worked with one time who said, no one in my family, the males in my family never lived past 58. And I said, well, you want to be a statistic? Or do you want to have a real life? And on his 59th birthday, he came and met with me and he said, I'm here. And I had no doubt once he broke the pattern of behavior of unconsciously inviting death into the family unit. I mean, you could say that about so many genetic predispositions to certain things, can't you? I got so off track here a minute, didn't I? I got really off track. So one of the things in
The third part.
okay, go.
All the prayers which men have uttered, no matter under what religion, to spiritual banner, they may have, the light is not good here, may have marched, have been effective not because of the peculiarity of their theology or religious belief, but because through the individual approach, they use a principle that exists in the center of every man's being. That is what to me, seems like my whole focus is consciously knowing that I am connecting with this existence that is because I realize that a lot of the things that as you say, I'm attracting into me is because of the imprints of society that I have bought into that you're supposed to do and you're supposed to things like the female things that you're supposed to do and not the male thing, those type of things were placed in, put in my path. And I have finally got to the point that I'm noticing which one is my real choices and which one are because this is the way we do it as females. This is the way we do it because our family always do it this way.
Oh gosh, you just stirred something up in me that I got creeped out for a minute. I remember hearing the kid's dad say to me, well, that's woman's work. I didn't realize how deeply affected I was by that. Why is it like when I used to say, some of us remember Reverend Skip Regan, who was an eligible heterosexual male who belonged to this church when I was minister here. And I remember looking at him, using the vacuum after the service, thinking there's nothing more pleasurable than watching a heterosexual male push a vacuum around. And when I told him that, you know, and he looked at me and he just burst out laughing. He said, well, he said, in my house, I am it. I push the vacuum around. And he said, this is my spiritual home. Why would I not push the vacuum around here too? So maybe we're breaking that chain that we grew up with, you know. That's women's work, that's men's work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
But that principle that exists within us, that is guiding us,
The principle that what?
the principle that is within us of the light, the existence of the intelligence of the universe is in guiding us. And that's what he's saying in his first sentence when he says that, what is, Maureen, read that
Okay,
first sentence.
sorry, Nancy. The light is not good, but that's all right. All the prayers which we have uttered, no matter under what religious or spiritual banner they may have marched, have been effective not because of their peculiarity of their theology or religious belief, but because through this individual approach, they use the principle that exists at the center of every person's being. And what is the principle? God is all there is.
Mm-hmm.
God is all there is. Somebody's going to ask us that question at some point in our journey as religious scientists. And really, that's the elevator answer if there ever was one. You know, God is all there is. But the last paragraph, where he says, naturally and humanly, they have told us that they received results. Or the client, of course, he's talking about. They have told us that they have received results because of their particular belief. See, if I believe what the results are going to be, and I have faith not only in God, but the faith of God, guess what? Everything's going to come to fruition that I desire to experience. But we know it was because they contacted an impersonal principle. We know there is such a principle involved, and we know how to make conscious use of that principle. How many people say, I come to us, and as practitioners, there's 3 of us here, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make this right. Well, it's not about making anything right. It's about having the consciousness to let it happen. You know, we don't force anything. Ernest says that through the science of mind. We don't coerce anything. We simply let it be a part of our life experience. Now, you know, I said Sunday, there are people I know that have never released anything without claw marks on it. And I think that's true for a lot of us. Because we think it has to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And that was what you were saying.
Yeah.
You got that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has to look a certain way. But there are so many other ways to achieve the end result that, you know, what works best for you, Bonnie, may not work for Vinu. It may not work for Nancy or for me. I actually don't mind clutter. I don't mind clutter until I can't find something. You know, and then I'm obsessed with cleaning up and getting things orderly. You know, if you came and looked in my clothes closet, blue, purple, black and white, gray and white, it's all in order in my clothes closet. Not because I have a tendency toward, whatever they call that thing, OCD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obsessive compulsive disorder. But I like all the blue stuff in the same place. I want all the green stuff in the same place. I want all the, I have mostly this, 2/3 of the closet is either black and white or gray and white. Yeah, So, okay, now that's weird, might be weird for somebody, but my kitchen cabinet is a mess right now. And I have a pantry, I opened the door to the pantry and I stood there and looked, and immediately it didn't leap out at me, so I closed the door. You know, that's my reasoning for it, you know. If I can't find it, I don't need it. Now, that being said, when I moved to this place, there's an island that's very deep. I can't get down to the bottom of the island and get the stuff out, but I couldn't find my hand mixer, so I have a new hand mixer. I couldn't find several other things. I know I have a box that's going to the Ventura Rescue Mission right now, and my granddaughter's gonna come over, and she's gonna take out all the duplicates that are under the island that I can't reach, and they're going to the Ventura Rescue Mission so they can put them in their store. But, okay, so clutter doesn't bother me as much as it used to. But it's not excessive clutter. Knowing it's my clutter and that I can clean it up whenever I want, that makes all the difference in the world. But when Nathan was living with me, if he cluttered, I had a little temper tantrum. We ran out of bread and butter plates. And I said, Nathan, you need to go check your room and find out if there are bread and butter. He must have brought out 8 of them. You know, surprisingly, we didn't have ants in his bedroom. Okay, so wait. The whole point of this is when we get a message that something needs to be done and we don't want to do it ourselves, wouldn't it just be easier to hire an organizer to come and help us do something?
Mm-hmm.
2 sets of hands are better than 1. You know, I'm sure you were probably there to say, well, keep that, don't keep that. We'll throw this away or give
That's
this
right.
away and let this go or let that go.
That's how we did it. And my husband we had to agree what's going to go and what's going to stay.
Marie Kondo has a whole book around it, a bestseller.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wanted, you know, this thing about having claw marks on everything from holding on to it. What happens for me is I don't like any inkling that I was thinking wrong, that I'm wrong. So I don't want to give it up because then it's factual that I was wrong. You know, the other way is better, or I find that out. I actually, with this organizing, it made me making the decision and doing it was having moments like you're describing where there's this, this is so uncomfortable, because I had this feeling I should be able to do this. I have cleaned up other messes just like that. And I don't like being wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to feel not able to do it, you know, that I don't have the skill. And isn't it wonderful to hear that other people have something happens, somebody says something, and there's that thing that comes up into consciousness, and red alert, red alert, red alert, and it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky and slippery to have those feelings. We have 2 crazy dogs. They're on Prozac. They're nuts. Our dogs are so peculiar, and one of them, he's kind of clumsy. He's really cute. He's clumsy, not very fast. And I don't know what happened to him before we had him, but what he does is growls. And when we first got him, it was really scary. I didn't know what to do with him. He lifted and this little 10-pound dog doing that. To this day, if you bump into him the wrong way, or if you touch him when he's sleeping, there's this it's that glimmer thing that comes up. It's so weird. He won't let go of it. That's my response. I have to protect myself by growling. So I growl too.
We protect ourselves, don't we? Yeah. So being wrong, you know, it may not be being wrong. I like the idea where someone said, I'm never wrong. Everything I do is an experiment. And I thought, well, that's actually really how life is. Okay, I didn't like what happened. Do something else. Do something different. And it is. Life is an experiment. Every day we have an opportunity to do things a certain way. What I like about this particular essay is the very first sentence. The very first sentence. We could have talked on that sentence for the whole thing. The very first sentence says, the mind which states a problem is the mind which knows the answer. Because sometimes we can't articulate what the problem is. We're so deeply embedded in the misery surrounding the problem, we can't identify it. I remember when I did my fifth step, when I was first in AA, and I had spent hours. There's 150 questions on that stupid, no, never mind. On that, the questions you had to answer, right? And in those days, you could have a male sponsor, but it was only temporary. The guy's name was Lou. And he took my fourth step, and he sat there like this the whole time I was talking. The snot running and the tears flowing as I'm reading my inventory, thinking he's going to hate me. I'm the worst person in the whole world, and I spilled everything on it. I got finished, and we happened to be in his den where there was a fireplace burning, and he said, okay, there's the fireplace. And I said, I'm throwing this away? This is the only copy I have. And he goes, yes. And I said, don't you want me to explain anything? And he goes, no, this is not what we're here for. Throw it away. And watching that thing go up in smoke, something in my brain just twisted 180 degrees, and I thought, holy smoke, you know, because it was going up in smoke. And he said, it is not the death of your life as you knew it. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes. And he said, if we could get more people to do this, there was no more snot, there was no more tears. I could have flown home after that experience with him, because something in me knew, and I wasn't in religious science at the time, something in me knew that very first sentence, you know, God does not give us a problem without giving us the solution to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your dream. Yes. Are you wanting to ask a question?
No, I'm just giving you the.
Oh, giving us the sign. Yes, I see it. All right. We're close to being complete.
Anything else that you want to add? Was anything else in this article that hits you before I do a closing treatment?
You know, I want to tell you something. It's a good thing I have to drive 40 minutes to get home, because it's the way to come down after being with you people. You didn't talk very much tonight, but your opening treatment was a perfect opening treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I didn't speak much because you actually, the divine was echoing similar things. You stated Ernest Holmes talks about not having faith in God, but faith of God. Mm-hmm. And I literally mentioned that in Foundations on Monday, how it was in our reading, and it was a really powerful reminder. And I was waiting to state that, and you said it, and I was like, oh, it came through. It was needed to come. And it just felt really powerful, because I think that sentence combined with this reading just is a solid reminder that it's all us. Like, we're not alone. And it is us, because we are one with it all.
So were you here the night that Moises brought Daniel
Yes.
from his work? And we were talking about, I mentioned about Fletcher Harding, who was a divine science minister, who was a psychologist. He said, we think we communicate effectively with people, but when you have a male and female 70% female and 30% male, and vice versa. And then Moises says he and Daniel were talking about that very same thing on the car on the way over. We think we have trouble communicating with one another. Guess what? The female is communicating with the male, and neither one really quite understands. But if we could flip it and communicate from our male self to a male, we would have a better chance at communicating effectively with one another. But that's another class, I think, at some other time. But it's interesting how sometimes I'm working on the computer at home and I'm typing the word, and the commentator on the TV is saying the same word as I'm typing. And do. Yeah. So we're just about finished. Reverend Nancy, do you want to treat us out? I want to say thank you to everybody who was on live stream, the people who are here tonight. There's no greater gift than having someone to share with. I think that when we think alike and we don't have to explain ourselves, it's a wonderful thing. And there you go.
Oh, it's also wonderful to hear what you think.
Yes, yes, it is.
When you put it into words.
Yes.
Mm.
All right.
And the mind that speaks is the mind that knows. So let us join together in knowing that we have been gifted with this chance to discuss and release and to embrace life, and that this is a new age for us because we are letting go and we are embracing the newness of being ourselves. And understanding that, and that's how spirit operates, it's constantly bringing forth the newness of life. And knowing that that divine presence that is within each and every one of us has gifted us with the opportunity to acknowledge it, to understand it, to actually integrate it, that understanding into our life experiences. Knowing that what unfolds from it, it gives us that edge of knowing that we are being guided and directed by the divine intelligence of the universe at all times. And as we do this, we go forth from this experience with a consciousness of appreciation and acceptance. Very grateful to know and to understand that that answer is always within us. So we allow this understanding, this truth that we agree upon, to go with us in this experience, from this experience tonight, knowing that as we utilize it, it expands our understanding and greatness of ourselves. So we allow it to be that which we take from this experience, knowing that we are blessed to know that the divine is always given to us, through us, for us, and as us. And with this, we join together in appreciating it and embracing it as we acknowledge its fruitful production in our lives, as we say together.
And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Nancy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Renzen.
Yes, thank you.